the guy that I have doing the painting, he's doing the drywall. I know you just mentioned, he said he needs like 15 gallons of primer. It's all, brand new drywalls. Is
Perfect.
that
That's
suitable?
that's not true either, by the way.
Okay.
So as you get it from Sherwin-Williams and use Master Hyde, it has primer built into it. And anyone who wants to use primer or who wants to roll is going to be an old school dude who's not going to really make money, because that whole
Right.
primer thing that's a 1995 thing. Like, you
Right.
haven't had to primer houses. I got into house flipping in like 2008 or 8 roughly. And even before that, like, primer was kind of going out of date. So yeah, they don't really primer much anymore. They all say, you need the primer. Like, what's the reason? If you're spraying, you definitely don't need the primer. So my guys, they literally are going to use Master Hyde from Sherwin-Williams. We get it for $55 for 5 gallons. They spray the wall, one coat. Another guy rolls behind them, called back rolling. One guy sprays it on, one guy rolls. Man, they can go through a house and have a coat on the whole house on the walls without cutting it in 2 to 3 hours. And then usually in a day, they'll have both coats on and be done in a day. And 2 coats, like literally 2 coats, like cover so well. We actually used that Master Hyde at Tanya's, and she had a whole room that's her son's room. It was pink. And like, you know how hard it is to go over hot pink. And we went over 2 coats with the spray and it was done. And it's like a white, by the way. Her house is like a more of an off-white, not like a gray. And we were able to go over that pink with just 2 coats. So if it's sprayed and rolled, it's only going to take 2 coats and it's going to cover. When it's done with 1 coat, it almost looks complete. You're like, holy crap, it like completely made the wall look different. So the second coat ends up just being like to get anything you missed and really fine tuning it when done correctly. Now, if you roll it, a pink wall, you could put 5 coats on.
Right.
So yeah, I would tell them not to do the primer. And if they give you any crap about it, like, that's your money, man.
Right. Yep.
Like,
Okay.
it's not just that too. You got to look out for them. Nikki had a situation recently. I don't know if she's on the call, but she had a situation recently where she had her people and they agreed to do it for 2K, and they were happy to do it for 2K. But then they found out it took them 5 days with like 4 guys. But she said they wouldn't spray. They wanted to roll. And they're like, no, we'll just roll. It's okay. And then the guy was all butthurt because he didn't make no money. He did it for the 2K, but he's like, I lost money. He lost money because it took him 4 guys 5 days to do it. But if he would have been doing it the more efficient way I just told you, he would have been able to get in and make some money and actually, and still been working for her and been able to do work for a lot of people. She probably would have referred him. So there would have been a lot of opportunity for his business to jump off. But what do people need in order for their business to grow and be great contractors for us? They need the ability to listen. So like, when I share that little pro tip with you, I don't care if someone's been painting 50 years. If they can't spray the house and roll, then they aren't coming in my house because I'm doing them a favor. I'm looking out for them. Because like, Nikki ended up making out, not having to pay more than 2K, but she felt bad about it. And and that sucks, right? So she didn't like the experience of that. And cause she don't want anybody not to make money, but so she did, as the contractor, following my advice, worked very well. But the next level of this now is to start knowing when people aren't doing things efficiently, and you start to lead that. So every time that you do something, you asked me a question about sprayer and painting and doing spraying and all that. And I was like, dude, if you want to do that, go on YouTube and check it out and learn about it. And you're like, I'm going to paint it myself. By the way, you could, and what you could do, and then it's a little bit off topic about ordering materials, but one thing that you can do very easily is you could get someone who knows how to paint that'll come work with you for like $200 a day. And then you paint with them. And like, me, Rashad, and Delante painted Tanya's house in 2.5 days. And I am not a professional painter. Rashad's never painted anything. Delante is a computer science guy. He'd never done anything ever. And 2 of them were spraying, cutting in, painting, and doing all that within 2.5 days. And they painted her house in 2.5 days from top to bottom. So like, that's inexperienced people using good systems. So with the sprayer, we bought the sprayer from Harbor Freight. We paid about $220 for it. It did take us 2 hours to get it working. So that's the only downsides of buying it from Harbor Freight, is I don't know what was going on with it. I eventually got it working. It almost drove me crazy. But you can also get that Graco sprayer from Home Depot, the good ones, like maybe $300 to $400. That's a professional sprayer. You can have that for every house if you want. And if you ever want to, if it's something you wanted to cut cost on, you could easily get some sprayers who are like, yeah, I'll work by the day. I'll come paint with you for 3 or 4 days. And, now you're paying like $800, and maybe you help them out. You provide the sprayer and the paint, and you'd be surprised, man. I'm telling you, you can get a guy for $200 a day could paint your whole house probably in 5 days by himself. If you go in there and help, it would get done even sooner. So you can cut the cost. When I'm telling you it's $2K to paint a house, I mean, I've done it as cheap as $1,000 before, but it required me being really involved. So if you're running a really big business, obviously you'd want to find someone doing it for $2,000, and you just, you know, you get the paint delivered and they got their own sprayer and they understand all the most optimal techniques. The benefit of you doing it one time yourself with your own sprayer is you now never again will you overpay for painting, because people generally do. Right? They pay $3,000, $2,500. That's a little too much. 25 is not the end of the world, but 2,000 for a row home is generous. I mean, row homes, I'm generally 16 to 1,800 because they're super easy to paint. You can fly through that row home. The fact that he's talking about primering and that right off the bat tells me that, you know, I ain't never heard one of my Spanish guys even mention the word primer. They just, unless the walls are greasy and oily or something, but you put all new sheetrock up, so you can just go right over that. So primers generally only used like if there's some kind of like stains or something that are going to bleed through.
Okay. And Mike, I got a quick question.
Sure.
Most of your stuff, it sounds like pretty standard, like 8-foot ceilings, you know, a stairwell or two upstairs to the basement, and like 1,600 square feet. So we have one now, the one I was telling you about earlier. It's the house itself is 3,000 square foot above grade, and then it's a finished basement with 9-foot ceilings.
Mm-hmm.
The question I have is, so when you come in the front door, it's got like, well, it's actually goes straight up to the second story. So like 20 foot.
20, 18 foot. You're going to need a scaffolding probably that you have to rent a scaffolding for them.
Yeah. So where would you, so 2,800 square feet above grade, full finished basement, where would you earmark something like that? Especially because it's not like it's just a 2-story colonial with 8-foot ceilings.
Mm-hmm. So basically I go $1 a foot, but if you got that much square footage, you might be able to get it down to 80 cents a foot or 75 cents maybe.
Okay.
So, you know, you got about 4,000 square feet total with the basement. So maybe like $3,000, 3,200. It's probably pretty reasonable. Okay. Maybe 35. I mean, you're thinking in that ballpark probably for that.
Yeah, I was thinking, so he just did the other house, same square footage, but it doesn't have these sprawling cathedrals. It's just more of like a traditional colonial. Yeah. And he did all the wall prep and the sheetrock repair in the bathrooms and bedrooms and stuff in addition. And that was 32, including the and that had a finished basement as well.
Okay, and that was 32 with touching the walls up also?
It was.
Oh, so that's a good price then. So you're basically running around $1 a foot, maybe a little less than $1 a foot there, maybe like 80 cents. And the strong feelings, I mean, yes, they're a little harder, but if someone's an efficient painter, it's not that big a deal because they're going to have to put a scaffolding together. They'll get up and spray it. They'll spray it in a half a day, you know, to be done. So they'll get done all the hard stuff like quickly. So literally look at it like maybe an additional $200 to $500, maybe, you know, another $300 to $500 and you'll be fine. And then tell them you'll rent them a scaffolding or something. I've had contractors, man, they take 2 ladders and put boards across them. But I have to be honest, I was watching them do that. And I'm like, I don't know how I've never been sued for workman's comp because like, there'll be like one guy have a rope tied to the guy's neck for support. Like, it's like, what is going on? And they put some stuff together. And that's what I'm saying. My guys are so resourceful. Like, it's crazy how resourceful they are, but sometimes it's scary when they do that. Okay. So maybe renting a scaffolding at one place, and then that would make their life easier. Give them a couple $100 extra for doing it. I'm sure they'll be fine. And so, yeah, right now you basically said, then you kind of confirmed that. So that gives you an idea when Ray paid $3,200 and he got the point up done in his house, which is a newer house. So it's probably a little bit of like nail holes and stuff like that need to be done. And he did a 2,800 square foot house with a basement. It's probably 800 square feet at least, right? Maybe even 1,000. And he did that for 3,200. So you can get where like 2,500, 700 more for a house that's like you have a 1,200 square foot house would be my guess with a small basement. So
yeah, you definitely have to watch him on efficiency though. Like I just kind of overheard you saying like spray and then back roll because they came in. So he had his guys come in with a sprayer and they went through and they started. But I don't know if I don't know what was going on, but he basically came in. He made it right, but they sprayed the ceilings and then they sprayed the walls, but they sprayed the walls back onto the ceilings. And I asked him, I'm like, are you guys like playing a prank on me or what are you doing? I said, you're kind of wasting your time. Like you're eating your profits up. And he said, no, the guy his painter had a new guy helping him. And I said, that's fine. But I said, I want to get your numbers tight so that you guys are maximizing profit. So they need a little bit of a course correction.
Well, you know what? They're training their guys, so you got to let them. They're making little mistakes, but that's how you learn. I've like when I'm learning to use the sprayer, like Delonte and Rashad, they were doing the same thing, right? But then they just fixed it. You know, you
Yeah.
can touch it out with a little bit of rolling. It's pretty easy to fix your stuff. Once you get used to using the sprayer, though, you can just work magic with it.
So they spray and back roll with like a big 18-inch roller.
Yep, exactly. They don't
Okay.
have a pan, so you know, how, like people sit there and dip it in the pan and roll like you did when you were a kid, paint your room. Like
Yeah.
that takes 5 times longer. If someone's spraying and you're just constantly rolling up and down the wall. I mean, I've seen rooms get done like just unreal fast. I mean, and it covers so well. It's almost like you're putting 2 coats on at one time. So it's
Okay.
pretty amazing stuff. So let's jump into the next thing real quick. I don't want to be too late here. But good questions. Thank you guys.